I really started looking at some of the different knife laws because they vary, with, like with Second Amendment, like with firearms rights, they vary state by state and obviously by locality as well. And one of the reasons, I started looking at this situation because of what happened in Baltimore. Police had said they stopped because of switchblade knives are reportedly banned in Baltimore, which got me to thinking, why? Give us some insight in all of this, because I mean, knives and firearms, to me, I mean, they're defensive weapons. I don't understand some of these archaic laws against them.
Oh, archaic is a good description. Most of these switchblade laws that are in existence come from the 1950s and Hollywood's excesses of the day in portraying switchblades as gang weapons, and that resulted in laws in a number of states and many cities that banned their carry, and eventually in the Federal Switchblade Act, which banned their interstate carry.
Now, is this where spring-assisted knives came? Because from what I have read, spring-assisted knives were basically, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, they were sort of created to get around some of these these ordinances which were banning the carry of switchblade knives.
That's actually exactly what has happened. The original assisted opening or spring assisted knives were developed in the 1990s as specifically to work around the definition of a switchblade, which required a button in the handle that automatically opens the knife.
Right.
Assisted opening knives don't have a button in the handle. You have to actually move the blade about 20 or 30 degrees open before the spring assists the blade opening the rest of the way.
So basically this comes down to the quote-unquote wrist flick test, which again, archaic does not even cover it, Doug.
Well, the wrist flick test is another issue entirely. I mean, that's why we have a federal civil rights lawsuit going against the city of New York and District Attorney Cyrus Vance Jr., ably assisted by his assistant DA, Dan Rather Jr. That's a test that they came up with to arbitrarily decide whether a knife was an illegal gravity knife, which we believe is a utter disregard for the actual wording of the state law that bans gravity knives.
Right.
Over 60,000 people have been prosecuted under their wrist flick test.
Wow, I had no idea that we were talking about those kind of numbers. Wow, that's quite a lot of individuals. And a lot of this, one of the big focuses on knife rights, because that sounds, people don't, I guess maybe people just think, oh, because it's a knife, you can carry it, and it's completely different than the laws which govern firearms. But in most cases, they're more draconian than the laws that cover firearms. In the situation with Baltimore, I mean, regardless of what happened with Freddie Gray, the whole reason that he had been initially stopped was because he was suspected of carrying a switchblade knife, which is, to my understanding, is illegal to carry in Baltimore, and that's what kicked all of this off.
That's correct. Switchblades are not illegal to carry in Maryland, but Maryland doesn't have knife law preemption, so cities are free to make laws more restrictive than state law. That is one of the foundations of our legislative effort, is to pass knife law preemption in the states, which we have successfully done in 8 states so far, the last 5 years.
Right. And it's kind of hard for people to realize what side of the law that they're on. I mean, it's a knife. I mean, and does this go for, I mean, are we specifically talking about, like switchblade, spring assisted, what you were saying, that, gravity controlled, for the lack of a better way to put it, knives? I mean, or is this going for basically like any blade?
It depends on the state. It depends upon the city. One of the difficulties with knife laws is they are so variable. Our goal is to simply get rid of the whole concept of illegal knives and see people to be punished when they commit an actual crime with a knife, and not because they're simply carrying a knife that has particular characteristics, how it opens or how the blade is shaped. I mean, that should not be a reason for arresting somebody for simply carrying a tool in their pocket.